The 1990s in the UK was a truly special era, a time when British culture was at its absolute peak. Britpop ruled the airwaves, Cool Britannia was in full swing, everything just felt bigger, louder and more exciting. We had the likes of Oasis and Blur battling it out in the charts, England hosting Euro 96, agonizingly going out on penalties to Germany in the semi-finals, and everyone wondering if they were more sporty, scary, baby, posh or ginger. It was also a golden age for television, with groundbreaking shows pushing boundaries and mainstream TV embracing the unpredictable energy of the decade. And few shows captured the mood of those times better than TFI Friday. Hosted by Chris Evans and broadcast on Channel 4 on Fridays at 6 p.m, the show featured a mix of live music performances, celebrity interviews and offbeat segments and became known for its raucous atmosphere, unpredictable moments and anything-goes approach that made it essential viewing each week. The show certainly had its fair share of controversial moments over the years, including a number of swearing incidents and less than tasteful regular features and games, but that was simply the nature of the show and of the era. TFI Friday thrived on pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable on early evening television, and its rebellious spirit only added to its appeal, making it one of the most talked about shows of the decade. This is the first episode in a brand new series I'm calling the 90s Rewind, where we'll be revisiting some iconic and standout events that defined 90s television. Don't worry, the longer form retrospectives and story of videos aren't going anywhere. The 90s Rewind is just a way to spotlight individual episodes, legendary moments and forgotten gems from classic shows, giving them the attention they deserve. So if you love 90s TV as much as I do, stick around, there's plenty more to come. And to kick things off, we're going all the way back to February 1996 to relive the very first episode of TFI Friday. Before we dive in, if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. The very first episode of TFI Friday was broadcast on February 9th, 1996. The UK #1 song at the time was Spaceman by Babylon Zoo. The top movie at the box office was the American crime film Heat, starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. And we were just 10 days away from the 1996 Brit Awards, where Oasis would win British Album of the Year for their second album, What's the Story Morning Glory, and Jarvis Cocker would famously interrupt Michael Jackson's performance of Earth Song. TFI Friday was produced by Ginger Productions, which was founded by Chris Evans, and was written by Danny Baker. Before launching TFI Friday, Evans had already been co-host of The Big Breakfast for its first 2 years, and fronted the popular light entertainment show Don't Forget Your Toothbrush, which had ended the previous year. The first episode of TFI Friday starts with an interesting cold open in which Evans goes to the doctor to collect the death certificates for Top of the Pops and The Girly Show. We all know Top of the Pops, but the less said about The Girly Show, the better. We then cross over to the studio where Chris tells us who's on the show tonight, and the first guests include rock bands Skunk Anansie and Shed 7, singer Count Indigo, model and former Page 3 girl Kathy Lloyd, comedian Dawn French, and a special appearance from Cher. We kick things off with the first live performance of the night, the Riverboat song from Ocean Colour Scene, an absolute banger of a track, and the song that TFI Friday would go on to use throughout the series as guests were introduced and made the walk to the bar. One of the things I loved about TFI Friday is that all of the live music was actually performed live. No lip syncing here, as was customary on shows like Top of the Pops. Who can forget what Nirvana did when they were invited on the show? After the song, we go up to Chris in the bar, where he first explains that the F in TFI Friday doesn't stand for the word for, as was reported in the media at the time, and we all know exactly what it really does stand for, before he jokingly introduces Liam and Noel Gallagher to the show.
Right, Noel and Liam Gallagher, there they are! You alright, lads? Yeah, a bit shy, obviously it's the first show, but it's nice to have him here nevertheless.
The first guest of the episode is then introduced, model Kathy Lloyd, and Chris immediately throws it to a segment recorded the previous week during the taping of the pilot episode of the show, in which Kathy Lloyd was also a guest. A significant portion of the interview is dedicated to asking Kathy if she's looking for a man, and something or other about a potential relationship she was having at the time with Jason Orange from Take That. I'll be honest, I don't know or remember much about this, and didn't really feel that compelled to research it. Chris ended the interview by saying that the weather had been cold recently and he had been chilled to the bone, encouraging Kathy to say that she could warm him up, to which he graciously accepts and asks her to chop up some firewood before giving her a chainsaw and sending her on her way.
Thank you very much, Kathy. That's beautiful.
We come back from this clip from the pilot and Chris reveals that they didn't actually get her to chop some firewood last week, but would like her to do so now. So once again, Kathy leaves the bar, chainsaw in hand, to cut some firewood. If the opening moments of TFI Friday make one thing clear, it's that this isn't going to be your typical light entertainment, chat or music show. It's chaotic and unpredictable, and we loved it. Chris then introduces the next live performance from Skunk Anansie with their song Weak. Not my favourite song from this era, but entertaining nonetheless.
Lost in time, I can't count the words I said when I thought they went on.
After a couple of quick questions with the band after the performance, we head to the first commercial break, and when we return, we get what we were promised: Kathy Lloyd cutting some firewood. Back in the bar, Chris tells us a proper dad joke.
What's the difference between these 11 eggs and these 11 cricketers? These 11 eggs haven't been beaten yet.
There are some groans from the audience saying it's the worst joke they've ever heard, to which Chris replies that it's not the worst joke they've ever heard, and he can prove it. We are then shown a hilarious video package of Chris wandering around the streets of London with the 11 eggs and the photo of the England cricket team testing the joke on members of the public.
What's the difference between these 11 eggs and these 11 cricketers?
Something about being bad.
Yeah, these 11 eggs haven't been beaten yet.
Hello.
What do you think?
Okay.
These 11 eggs haven't been beaten yet.
He's a funny man. Very funny.
These 11 eggs haven't been beaten yet. Nice one. These 11 eggs haven't been beaten yet.
The best part was when Chris went into an HMV and announced the joke via tannoy to the entire shop.
Attention, attention. What is the difference between 11 eggs and the 11 England cricketers? The 11 eggs haven't been beaten yet.
Back in the studio, we go to our next live performance, which is Ocean Colour Scene again performing their song The Circle, before this peculiar segment called At Home with Chris and Cher, where Cher lets out an almighty fart.
No matter what, honey.
I love you, babe.
After this, we're back in the bar, where Chris introduces one of the segments of the show called the Bar Debate, where two members of the public are given 1 minute to argue either for or against the question at hand. And on this first episode, the question is Noel's house party past its sell-by date? Taking direct aim at the BBC's Saturday night offering of light entertainment. Two students are brought out to make the case for and against before the question is put to a vote from the bar, who overwhelmingly vote yes, Noel's house party is past its sell-by date. Just a little bit brutal, as I actually quite enjoyed Noel's house party when I was young, but what else do you expect from such a rowdy, raucous group on Channel 4's latest Friday night offering? The next song of the evening is from Shed 7 with their song Getting Better, a band I hadn't thought about in a very long time, and this song probably wouldn't sound out of place on an Oasis record. The two bands definitely had a very similar sound. As we go to the break, we see Kathy Lloyd still going crazy with the chainsaw and is now attacking some eggs, flowers, and tubes of Pringles. The next guest is then brought out, comedian Don French, who smothers Chris in some red lipstick. A relatively short interview this one, with nothing particularly noteworthy. We then go back down to the studio floor for the next live performance of the evening from Count Indigo with a song called My Unknown Love. I'm not gonna lie, I hadn't heard of Count Indigo before, but the song was actually not that bad. Not my style of music, but a good performance nonetheless. After this, we go back up to the bar where Chris introduces The Lord of Love, a recurring segment on the show where veteran actor Ronald Fraser would recite love poems to girls from the audience.
I could have told you that love is more than being warm in bed, more than individuals seeking an accomplice.
And with that, Chris introduces the last song of the evening from Skunk Anansie, and the debut episode of TFI Friday draws to a close. Overall, a great opening episode that set the tone for what TFI Friday was all about. Fast-paced, unpredictable, packed with live music, celebrity guests, and a sense of organized chaos that made it must-watch TV. I was quite young when TFI Friday was on, but I do have fond memories of it being on our TV on Friday nights. And you know, there was something special about TV in the 90s, especially on Friday and Saturday nights. It was a time when families and friends would gather in front of the screen, knowing they were in for a night of great entertainment. Whether it was the madness of TFI Friday, the spectacle of gladiators, the hilarity of Shooting Stars, or the sheer fun of Noel's House Party, these were shows that brought people together and gave us moments we'd talk about for the next week, creating a shared experience in a way that just doesn't happen anymore. In today's world of streaming and on-demand content, that collective excitement of tuning in at a set time to watch something live has mostly faded, and there's a reason so many people look back fondly on 90s TV. It was bold, unpredictable, and unafraid to take risks. And for those of us who remember it, it's hard not to feel a little nostalgic for a time when weekend TV really meant something. TFI Friday would go on to become a huge success, running for 5 years and cementing itself as one of the most iconic and talked about British TV shows of the decade. A special one-off revival of the show was broadcast in June 2015, which did well enough for the show to be commissioned for a full revival, with 10 episodes being broadcast in late 2015. Unfortunately, Channel 4 then announced in 2016 that they had no plans for any further series, and the show quietly faded away once again, bringing an end to its second run. Though short-lived, the revival was a nostalgic reminder of what made TFI Friday so special, and for many it was a welcome trip back to a time when TV felt a little bit more unpredictable and a lot more fun. Perhaps TFI Friday will return to our screens again one day. TV could certainly use a bit more of its energy and unpredictability, and if it ever does, I will definitely be tuning in. Thanks for watching, everyone. As I mentioned at the start, this is the first episode in a new series I'm calling The 90s Rewind, where I'll be taking a look back at some iconic moments that defined 90s television. If you've got any suggestions for shows, episodes, or unforgettable TV moments from the 90s you'd like me to cover, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas. And if you enjoyed this first episode, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks again, everyone, and see you in the next one.